Representative Bierman, thanks for coming. It's somewhat unfair for you to not have an opponent to discuss this with, so I'm going to pick on you a little bit. These are the things in the current topics affecting Minnesota residents: inflation, crime, gas prices, lack of workers, diversity. Let's talk a little bit about what happened in the last legislative session. Again, we had a biennium with a $52 billion budget in 2023, 2022. In the 2024-2025 budget was raised to $71 billion. That's a 40% increase in spending. What did we spend that on? What one-time bills did we come up with that hopefully benefits the state of Minnesota?
Good afternoon. Do I get to do a little intro for people who don't really know who I am?
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Mr.
Thank you.
Bierman?
I appreciate that. So my name's Robert Bierman. I'm a small business owner, small family firm in the home furnishings and flooring business. I have been the operator and owner of that business for 31 years. It's a third-generation company. And so I know the struggle of meeting payroll, and have been doing that and know what it's like in good times and challenging times. My wife and I moved here, it's almost 30 years that we've been in Apple Valley, and we benefited from the very strong school district in District 196. Our kids went through Southview Elementary, Valley, and Apple Valley High School, and really got a great education, which was the plan. And just to appreciate the district and the schools and the education that we have here in this district. I know that attracts a lot of people, and I talk to them at the doors and they say they moved for the schools as well. So I'm a 26-year member of the Rotary Club. I am now, this year, a member of the Grandfather Club as of 5 months ago, so that is exciting. And I have had the honor to serve this community as the State House representative for three terms now. So my goals of service have not changed. I believe that the policy at the State House should always be focused on two critical issues: public interest and public safety. And it is through that lens that I vote and serve the people of our district. Now to your questions, what happened to the budget? And there was a bunch on the preamble about different issues, but I will just say on the budget, in the previous set of conversations with the other representatives, we heard a lot about it. But I would say this, especially to a chamber audience, that when you think about your business and you think about the need to invest in your business, you invest in your facility, you invest in your people, you invest in training and education for them, you invest in product and inventory, but also marketing and communications and technology and mechanization to help productivity increase. That's what we do in our businesses. And when we had this one-time surplus that we did need to spend or lose a big part of it, and what to do with it, I mean, there were options. And as Representative Hewitt said, that money would have been spent no matter who was in charge. But what it would have been spent on would be very different. And I am proud of the work we did on that budget and the investments we made in the economy. Take $2.6 billion for infrastructure in a state that has not really been meeting its needs the last terms that I've been in office. We haven't passed the bonding bill every year. So 2.8 for health and human services, taking care of elders, seniors, disabled. 2.3 for the education, which is critical to our economy. That's the bedrock of what makes us a state that companies want to come to, is our educated, strong, vibrant workforce, which creates diversity in not only business, but in the people who come here. Public safety was covered a little bit, but judicial system, we invested over $800 million in our court system, which is critical if we want to have good public safety and turnaround on issues with prosecutions and defense and the correction system. 1.3 billion on workforce economic development and funding to match federal funds that were available in the IIJA. We maxed that out by intent because that's more federal dollars that will come to Minnesota in the future. So paid family medical leave was talked about already, but that too is a huge investment in generations to come of workforce. It's obviously for employees first and foremost, but it benefits infants, children, moms, husbands and families. It also gives people the opportunity to take time off to care for a parent or a grandparent in their trying times, especially in a time when we have people who want to stay in their houses longer, and that's been beneficial. It's time up, that's a big question, but there is a list of what the money was spent on, and happy to go over that in further detail.
That is great, thank you. Let's talk about the Paid Leave Act. We still don't have an answer as to what that's going to cost. And that's troubling for business owners. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going to happen and how we move forward with it?
And I'm glad you said move forward with it, because that is key. I'm a small business owner. I have wanted this program from the get-go. I have employees that I have worked with over the years that have had to take time off, extended periods, for chemotherapy, for themselves, and for family, and people who have had to go across the country to help their parents at their elder ages move to retirement communities, or when one had passed away and they had issues with that. And they don't have the wherewithal to take that time off, and they're worried that they're going to lose their job completely with me if they have to spend time a month away to take care of some of these things, or the time off to deal with sick children, whatever it is. It happens, and without paid family medical leave, they're still going to leave to do that, to take care of their family members. It's just a matter of whether I can hold a space for them, and with this program, I can, because I can divert that to part-time employment, which, is a challenge I know in workforce right now. We have had a hard time coming out of COVID and the pandemic and the disruption, keeping our store fully staffed to the people that we need. That's a workforce issue, and I think people in this room know all too well what that looks like. But to get to your question, I heard Representative Hewitt talk about the need to revisit some of this, and there will have to be some revisiting of it, and I think I'm all in on that conversation. Sorry you have to hold up that stop sign so many times.
Tell us about some of the bills that you've authored in the legislature, and which has been passed, what's been abandoned.
There's been some good bills that have passed, and not too many that have been abandoned. They're still viable.
That's good.
But last year, there was a bill to address the issue of the Sanford-Fairview healthcare merger, which would have entailed Sanford hospitals out of South Dakota obtaining our Minnesota Medical Center or medical school. And so I carried a bill to prevent that from happening. And that bill also included some oversight of healthcare infrastructure for the ability of the Minnesota Department of Health and the Attorney General to review mega mergers of hospitals in Minnesota, which has been happening across the country and has a direct impact on cost for clients, for patients, and also impacts on the quality of care and just simply the access, because mergers typically across the country will end up consolidating, which means they're pulling clinics and closing smaller hospitals perhaps in areas where they want to consolidate and reduce that cost. But that has immediate impacts upon healthcare of Minnesotans. So the Department of Health and the Attorney General now with this bill will be able to look at the impacts of a merger prior to it happening. So instead of us all reading about the merger in the business section, there would be a notification. There would be 60 days for the hospital or for the health department and the Attorney General to review that process, and then would give a green light or say, no, we're against this merger. If they go ahead with the merger, then there may be a lawsuit. So that's the so-called merger bill, but it was successful at this time to rein in that merger. But at this time, we're working to try to help Fairview and the University of Minnesota mediate their situation, as they are sort of a combined entity right now. It is benefiting both parties, and I really want to see that continue and that their relationship stays together. But they just signed an extension to work on it, and we'll continue to keep our eyes on that.
Tell us about what committees you're on.
This past session, I was on health, finance and policy, commerce, energy and climate, and the ethics committee. And so those are committees that I was familiar with, at least the energy and climate and the health I have been on since my first term, and I have carried forward with those. And that's one area of the work that I spend a lot of time in, is healthcare.
Let's talk about crime. How do we reduce it? How do we fix it? What are you guys doing about it in St. Paul?
Well, we are heading into a new year, and I think that it's always important to take stock of where we are and what has succeeded and what are the needs that are still out there. Recently, I attended with our local police department a little training session to view the training of new police officers, which was a pretty eye-opening experience for me. And I know that there have been much lower numbers of applicants to the force. And so I do have that on my agenda as far as going forward, to see, we've done some things in the past, as John mentioned, but we need to, that's one area of workforce we do need to strengthen and get more applicants that are qualified and more applicants that can be trained for that. Workforce itself across the board is an area that we are going to be needing to, put in specific plans for, especially healthcare as well. We're going to have shortages on the horizon for doctors, nurses, all manner of medical. And so we need to be focused on workforce for that. We need to be focused on workforce for psychologists, and we have the mental health crisis we're dealing with, which, there's a lot of bright spots with how law enforcement is working with the embedded teams on that to address mental health needs in our community, and continue to work on that so that we can have police doing what they do best and getting the help that they can have on their team to address mental health issues in the community, which otherwise becomes a recurring problem and impacts our medical facilities with caseloads in their emergency department. So there's a lot of interrelationships with these problems. The problem is the continuum of care for mental health, addiction, and also homelessness. So they are all related. And so when we look at them in silos, we're not really getting to the solving the problem in a way we could if we sort of have a lattice approach with specialties.
You're at somewhat of a disadvantage. You spent the last week or so drafting up a question for your opponent. So feel free to ask me the question and I'll throw out an answer to you. Otherwise, feel free to give us a closing statement.
All right. Well, I will just let you know the question I was going to ask, which was, when I'm door knocking, I hear a lot from people at the doors about the environment, the degradation of the environment, how do we improve it, and also concerns about climate change. And in 2022, in the House of Representatives, we had a statement, a resolution statement, and it read, I want to get it right, so I did write it down actually. And with the trifecta in last biennium, we were finally able to pass a lot of bills focused on the issue of climate. But in 2022, there was a declaration vote by members of the House. The words were, "The legislature finds and declares that greenhouse gas emissions resulting from human activities are a key cause of climate change." You can vote yes with your green button, you can vote no with your red button. So that was my question to my opponent. How would she vote on that resolution? Because it's a telling issue to know how people will go to the Capitol and deal with the issue. And I think it's important that people know 50 out of the 59 representatives on the Republican side voted no, and all Democrats voted yes. So the issue has been something of a barrier to addressing a lot of issues at the Capitol, but especially that one until the trifecta year. As to a closing, I will just say this. I thank the Chamber for the opportunity to be up here and to speak with you. And these questions, they're complex. They need more than a minute in most cases, but I tried the best I could. Sorry for the extensions. But I just appreciate the time people spend coming out, listening, learning, and ask you to look at my website, electrobertbierman.com, for more information on me, my policies, and perspectives. And I also encourage you to come to my coffee hours, which I try to hold every couple weeks right here locally. And that's on the website as well, but you can come and talk and we can have longer conversations. I did see some people here who come regularly, and so I appreciate that. But mostly I just want to say that you can reach out to me directly as well. I'm your representative. I am very accessible and would love to always talk to you about things. So appreciate the time, and please vote.
Representative Robert Bierman and Angela Zorn, your candidates for House District 56A.